The first thing I noticed when I woke up wasn't the beeping machines or the concerned faces of nurses. It was my brother Kyle's voice in the hallway, laughing about something. Yeah, it got 15 grand for it. Not bad for a car just sitting there collecting dust. My throat was too dry to speak, tubes and wires making movement impossible. But my mind, foggy as it was from 3 months in a coma, latched onto those words. What car? What 15 grand? The nurse noticed my eyes were open and rushed out, returning with a doctor who began the usual tests. Follow the light, squeeze my hand, blink if you understand. But I wasn't really listening. I was thinking about Kyle's words and the sinking feeling in my stomach. It took 2 days before I could speak properly, another week before I had the strength for real conversations. My best friend Denise was there when I finally asked the question I'd been dreading. My Mustang, I croaked. Where's my car? Denise's face told me everything before she even opened her mouth. Oh, honey. I tried to stop him. We all did. But Kyle had power of attorney while you were. And he said the medical bills. He sold my car? The words came out strangled. Not just any car. My 1967 Mustang Fastback. Restored by my father and me over 5 years. The last thing we'd done together before cancer took him. The car I'd turned down $50,000 for just last year because it wasn't about money. He said you'd never wake up, Denise whispered. The doctors were giving really bad odds, and he claimed he needed the money for your care. How much? I already knew it would be bad. $15,000. I closed my eyes. $15,000 for a car worth at least 50. A car that meant everything to me. A car that Kyle had always resented because Dad had left it to me instead of him. Who bought it? Some lawyer. Richard Sterling. Kyle said he got a good deal because the guy was going through a divorce and needed quick cash transactions or something. Richard Sterling. I knew that name. My brain, still fighting through the fog of months unconscious, tried to place it. Then it hit me, Sterling and Associates. They handled divorces, and more importantly, Kyle's divorce lawyer was a partner there. Despite the doctor's protests, I had Denise bring me my laptop the next day. As a paralegal specializing in estate law, I knew exactly what to look for and where to find it. My fingers were weak, typing was exhausting, but rage is excellent motivation. First, I pulled up the power of attorney documents. Kyle had indeed been granted POA when I went into the coma, standard procedure for next of kin. But POA has limitations, and I'd spent 5 years learning exactly what those were. Next, I researched Richard Sterling, divorce attorney, senior partner, and, bingo, going through a very messy divorce himself. His assets were frozen pending settlement. Any large cash purchases would be scrutinized by his ex-wife's legal team. Unless, of course, those purchases were disguised as incredible deals that no reasonable person would pass up. Then I found the sale documents. Kyle had filed them properly. He wasn't stupid, just greedy. The bill of sale listed the Mustang as being in poor condition, requiring extensive restoration. $15,000 for a project car. I actually laughed, which hurt my still-healing ribs. Poor condition? I had photos on my cloud storage from 2 weeks before the accident. The car was pristine, showroom quality. I'd just had it appraised for insurance purposes. $52,000. But the best part? The notarization. Kyle had used his girlfriend as the notary. His girlfriend who, according to her LinkedIn, wasn't a licensed notary in our state. Game, set, match. It took me 6 weeks to get strong enough to leave the hospital. 6 weeks of physical therapy, of learning to walk again, of fighting through pain that made me want to give up. But every time I wanted to quit, I thought about my Mustang. About my father's hands teaching mine how to rebuild the engine. About Kyle's smug voice. She'll never wake up anyway. I didn't tell Kyle I was planning anything. Let him think I was too weak, too grateful to be alive to care about material things. He visited twice, both times talking about how hard it had been for him, how expensive my care was, how lucky I was that he'd been there to handle things. I had to make tough choices, he said during his second visit. But family comes first, right? Right. I agreed, not mentioning that I'd already pulled every financial record from the hospital. The insurance had covered everything. The $15,000 had gone straight into his pocket. 3 months after waking up, I walked into the courthouse. Not steady, I still used a cane, but upright and determined. I'd filed in the county where the sale had taken place, which happened to be where Sterling practiced. Perfect. The courtroom was small, used for civil matters. Judge Patricia Hawkins presiding. I'd researched her too. She had a reputation for having zero tolerance for legal shenanigans and a particular dislike for attorneys who thought they were above the law. Kyle arrived looking annoyed. He'd hired a lawyer, not from Sterling's firm, obviously. Richard Sterling himself sat on the other side, looking confident in his $1,000 suit. He probably thought this was a nuisance suit from a bitter sister. "Your Honor," I began, standing carefully. I'd refused a lawyer, representing myself. "I'm seeking the return of my property, a 1967 Ford Mustang Fastback, illegally sold while I was incapacitated." "Ms. Morgan," the judge said, "I've reviewed the initial filings. The sale appears to have been conducted under valid power of attorney." "I agree that my brother had power of attorney," I said. "But POA doesn't grant carte blanche to liquidate assets for personal gain. I have here evidence that the sale was conducted fraudulently, with both parties aware they were circumventing both legal and ethical boundaries." Kyle's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, this is simply a case of seller's remorse. Mr. Kyle Morgan made a difficult decision during a family crisis." "If I may," I interrupted, pulling out my first folder. "Exhibit A, hospital billing records showing all medical expenses were covered by insurance. No out-of-pocket expenses required liquidation of assets." Kyle shifted in his seat. "Exhibit B, an insurance appraisal of the vehicle dated 2 weeks before my accident, valuing it at $52,000. The sale price of $15,000 represents a $37,000 loss, clearly indicating this was not an arm's-length transaction conducted in good faith." Sterling's confidence was starting to waver. Exhibit C, text messages between Mr. Kyle Morgan and Mr. Sterling discussing the sale. I'd gotten these through discovery. The beautiful thing about filing a lawsuit is the other party has to turn over evidence. Quote, "Just need a bill of sale showing low value. Going through divorce, can't show big purchases." End quote. The judge's eyebrows rose. Sterling's lawyer stood quickly. "Those messages were taken out of context." "The context seems pretty clear," Judge Hawkins said dryly. "Continue, Ms. Morgan." Exhibit D. The notarization on the bill of sale was conducted by Ms. Jennifer Walsh, Mr. Kyle Morgan's girlfriend. Ms. Walsh is not, nor has she ever been, a licensed notary in this state. This makes the sale document legally invalid. Now Kyle was sweating. "Finally, Your Honor, I'd like to present evidence that Mr. Sterling was fully aware he was participating in a scheme to defraud both me and potentially his ex-wife." I pulled out the final folder. "Mr. Sterling is currently in divorce proceedings. His assets are under court supervision. Large purchases must be reported and approved. By disguising a $52,000 purchase as a $15,000 one, he committed fraud upon the divorce court." Sterling's lawyer was on his feet. "Your Honor, this is outside the scope. It establishes pattern and intent," I countered. "Mr. Sterling needed a way to hide assets from his divorce. My brother needed money. They conspired to use my incapacitation and a fraudulent sale to accomplish both goals." "I've heard enough," Judge Hawkins said. "Mr. Sterling, do you have the vehicle?" Sterling nodded reluctantly. "Here's what's going to happen," the judge continued. "The sale is voided due to fraudulent notarization. Mr. Sterling, you will return the vehicle to Ms. Morgan immediately. You're out $15,000. Consider it a lesson in due diligence." "Your Honor," Sterling's lawyer started. "I'm not finished. I'll be forwarding this transcript to the judge handling your divorce case. I'm sure they'll be very interested in your attempt to hide assets through fraudulent purchases." Sterling went pale. In divorce court, hiding assets was the kiss of death. He'd just lost any credibility he had. "As for you, Mr. Kyle Morgan," the judge turned to my brother. "You violated your fiduciary duty as power of attorney. You sold your sister's property for personal gain while she lay in a coma. I'm referring this matter to the district attorney for potential criminal charges." Kyle looked like he might faint. "Criminal charges? Fraud. Breach of fiduciary duty. Theft. Take your pick." The judge's voice was ice. "And I'm ordering you to pay Ms. Morgan's legal fees, court costs, and damages equal to the difference between the sale price and appraised value. That's $37,000 due within 30 days. "I don't have that kind of money," Kyle protested. "Then I suggest you get a loan. Or sell something. Just make sure it's actually yours this time." The gavel came down. Case closed. Outside the courthouse, Kyle tried to approach me. "Taylor, come on. I'm your brother. I was stressed. I made a mistake." "You sold Dad's car," I said quietly. The last thing he and I built together. While I was in a coma. Because you thought I'd never wake up to stop you. I needed the money. For what, Kyle? Your gambling debts? Your girlfriend's shopping sprees? Because it wasn't for my medical bills. He had no answer. Richard Sterling was waiting by a beautiful, familiar black Mustang in the parking lot. He held out the keys without meeting my eyes. Up close, I could see he'd maintained it perfectly. Small comfort. You know, I said, taking the keys. You're going to lose big in your divorce now. Hiding assets, fraudulent purchases. Judges really hate that. He grimaced. My wife's attorney is going to crucify me. Probably. But here's the thing, Richard. You're a lawyer. You knew this was wrong. You knew Kyle was selling something that wasn't his to sell. You just thought you'd never get caught. I ran my hand along the Mustang's hood, feeling the familiar curves. Dad would have been furious about what Kyle did. But he would have been proud of how I handled it. The engine roared to life. That beautiful sound I'd thought I'd never hear again. 3 months in a coma, 3 months of recovery, and now 3 minutes of pure satisfaction as I drove away from the courthouse. That night, I got a call from an unknown number. It was Sterling's soon-to-be ex-wife's attorney. Ms. Morgan, I heard about today's proceedings. I was wondering if you'd be willing to provide a deposition about your interactions with Mr. Sterling. I smiled. I'd be happy to help. Kyle texted me later. You've ruined my life. Sterling's firm is suing me for damaging their reputation. The DA is pressing charges. I might lose my job. I texted back. You ruined your own life the moment you decided I'd never wake up anyway. Then I blocked his number. The Mustang sits in my garage now, exactly where it belongs. Sometimes I just go out there and sit in it, remembering Dad, remembering all the work we put into it. Kyle thought he was stealing a car. He was really trying to steal memories, connections, love transformed into metal and chrome. But here's what Kyle never understood, what Sterling never understood. Being a paralegal isn't just about knowing the law. It's about understanding that every document tells a story. Every signature has consequences. Every transaction leaves a trail. They thought I was gone, that they could rewrite the story however they wanted. They forgot that sometimes people wake up. Sometimes they come back. And sometimes, they come back knowing exactly how to read the trail you left behind. The Mustang purrs in the garage, restored to its rightful place. My brother faces criminal charges. Sterling's divorce got significantly worse. And me? I'm alive, I'm walking, and I've got my father's car back. Kyle was right about one thing. 15 grand was a pretty good deal. Just not for the person he thought.